All right, so today I wanted to make a video about Gorilla Technology. In the last 2 weeks, there have been, since I made the last video on their earnings, which are very strong. If you want more details about the earnings, you can watch that video. But since then, there have been a lot of pieces of news and just developments that have been brewing that I kind of want to talk about today. But before I get started, I just want to mention that in the description of my videos from now on, I'm just going to have all my current holdings because I know I make videos on a bunch of different stocks, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm holding them personally. Some of them I always usually buy them, but some of them I just sell to be able to buy other things or buy a little more of other things. So that's something that I'm going to start doing. But about talking about Gorilla, so obviously we had the great earnings. Stock jumped up to probably 25, hit highs of like 27. It's kind of settled down a little bit, which is kind of to be expected, I guess. I didn't expect it just off of earnings alone to go back to 40, because the earnings were very, very strong, and it kind of sets a great path for where Gorilla is to go in the next couple months, couple years as a company. But I'm not surprised that it didn't go up to 40. But the good thing is that now we're sitting at a very comfortable level where we're not really going below 20 anymore. And it used to be, really, if you look at back here before earnings, it used to be 15, and we were hovering around that 15 and 20 range. Now we're hovering around that 20 to 25 range. So we're starting to make little jumps, and just getting into better ranges of the stock price. But something, obviously earnings were exciting, and but you could kind of tell what was going to come out of those. It's not that difficult to see. Obviously the revenues are going to keep growing and their net incomes are going to be good. But what's coming, I think, is the most exciting out of anything that could possibly come for Gorilla, and that is a huge contract announcement. And the CEO has teased this, the CFO has teased this for on the earnings call, just like something huge is coming. And I think the next PR we get is going to be a huge contract, and it's going to be a definitive agreement. Obviously, we've had a couple, I'm going to go through this video, a couple of those contracts where it's just kind of unofficial, and investors, it pumps the stock for a couple days, but then investors don't really, they kind of just settle down. You see, this is exactly what happened here. We were at 20, we pumped all the way to 40 after a couple contract announcements, but there were no definitive, it wasn't really a definitive agreement. It was what they call an MOU. So just like, okay, we're going to eventually do this. We're in agreement on the ideas of this contract, but that financial agreement is not really in place, and you don't know what the revenue impact is going to be, and when exactly it's going to actually start doing the work. So I feel like that is definitely brewing, and there's a couple reasons which really point to those developments leading up to a huge contract being officially announced, and that could send the stock price up even double in a single day, just because we've never seen something like that with Gorilla. We've never seen a huge contract be officially announced. We've seen kind of just those MOUs. So again, we're in a great spot if you're an investor, but what's to come is really you should be excited about. So to get started, on July 2nd, so that was I think it was Wednesday, they announced $105 million investment, basthink in two investment firms. The second one hasn't been announced. The first one was it was like, I honestly, I think it was like Titan Investment Group, but $105 million investment. So them buying $105 million in stock, and basically what that means, a partial dilution for shareholders, which initially led the stock to drop 10%, which isn't that bad for Gorilla, and then it kind of just bounced back the next day. But what it really means is that Gorilla now has an extra $105 million to work with in cash, and that cash can be used to close those big projects. And that's really what it says. The proceeds will be used to establish performance guarantees and bid bonds, meeting requirements with bids for projects. So this is huge in relation to previously announced acquisitions. So this right here lets me know that there's probably a huge project announcement coming, because for them to say that they're going to use, they could have easily said the proceeds would be used to bolster the balance sheet, to whatever financial health. They said bids for project in relation to previously announced acquisitions. So that is huge, that previously announced acquisitions part. because they're basically letting investors know, this money will be used to officially close those previously announced acquisitions that initially were, very, very exciting, but they just never really closed them. And then, on top of that, the next day, Gorilla announced they're going to be having a live investor webinar on July 10th. So that would be the upcoming Thursday, I'm pretty sure. And the funny thing about this one, kind of the interesting thing, is that it's at 8:30 a.m. So the thing about that is that usually they have their investor webinars either after the bell or they have them sometime midday. And the thing with those is that investors don't really react to those as well. And you don't really see the stock price jump a lot because of the webinar. But the fact that this is before the market opens and a pretty good amount before the market opens lets me know that there is probably something they want to clarify, or they want to even just announce that morning and talk a little more about before market opens, to have investors really understand what it means and hopefully see a huge jump in the stock price. So that is also huge, pointing at possibly and most likely a huge contract announcement sometime this week. And with it being at 8:30 a.m., they always release their press at 8 a.m. So if you were to get a contract on Thursday, it would be at 8 a.m. The timing is lining up just perfectly. It's almost too perfect. They've never had something like this before where it's been 8:30 a.m. Because everyone knows they release their contract announcements, if they were to, at 8 a.m. So obviously that is another thing that points to a huge contract announcement this week. And that's on top of the $100 million investment, which is basically one firm owning 20% of the company now. This is a $500 million market cap stock. So in order to do that, not only are you giving Gorilla money, but you're also trusting the company. And most likely that firm, when investing, knew that the money would be going towards something great. So again, two huge signs. And on top of that, Gorilla also recently, I talked about this, I think, before. They recently acquired a technology provider in Thailand. And, this is obviously, they do this a pretty good amount. It's just acquisitions. But the reason this is kind of interesting is because of the location in Thailand. And Thailand is a really special place for Gorilla because of this. This is a project that they announced on March 3rd, so very early March. And it's a huge project, a $1.8 billion project. And they announced it, but once again, they didn't have any specific revenue impacts over the next few years. They just announced the idea of the project. And this sent the stock price up, but it didn't maintain the jump. So the reason it's kind of interesting, because first they acquired the technology in Thailand, then they're getting funding to be able to close the project, and this all kind of leads back to Thailand, and this is the project that stands in Thailand. So if everything kind of adds up this week, maybe Thursday, maybe Wednesday, you could see this officially closed. And in terms of what the stock price could see, you could see an easy double. Again, we're talking about a $1.8 billion project. This is a $500 million company. That's a project that's even bigger than the market cap. The market cap could immediately jump to 1 billion. It's not. I've never seen something like this before. Once again, we're entering unknown territory for Gorilla with these official projects being this big. And so again, great things kind of leading up to this one big project. And again, March 10th, they announced that they're launching the initial phases, but once again, not officially closed. No financial clarity really on what the impacts would be for Gorilla's revenues. And if it isn't the Thailand project, there's one other one that the only other one I could see on their website in terms of a formally, or what do they say here? Yeah, previously announced acquisition. Is the Southeast Asia project. And this would be a $400 million project over, and then they also said additional projects, $2.5 billion in spending over a 15-year period. So once again, no certainty here. They announced the idea of a $400 million project for 5 years, but they also announced $2.5 billion for 15 years. So think about it. If they announced that they were to spend, what is it, $3 billion if they do the 2.52 over the next 20 years, that is huge. The stock could jump to $2 billion in market cap. We've never seen something like this for Gorilla, but this is kind of where I think this is headed. And this next week could be extremely important. And the fact that they have the investor webinar on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. just tells me that something huge is coming, just something absolutely huge. I am so excited for this week. The most excited I've ever been. Earnings were great, obviously, but this could be huge. We're not talking about a $70 million project. They have the chance to get these billion-dollar projects that could easily send the stock up double or triple in just a single day. So obviously, I have no idea what's going to happen. I am just educated. I'm taking an educated guess here. There's no guarantees they're going to announce a project that could easily go on the webinar on Thursday morning and, talk about something else. I don't know, like another development with one of their other projects that has already been set in stone, or kind of just discuss the funding and, where they're going. That could easily happen. And the stock, could just kind of stay where it is or go up a little bit, maybe 25, but all the signs point to a huge project being announced this week. And most likely they usually do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They don't usually announce Monday or Friday. So those 3 days, look out, especially Thursday morning. I could definitely see an announcement at 8 a.m. Investors kind of digest it for 30 minutes and then even more clarification at 8:30 to 9:30, and then market opens and this thing goes nuts. So I am very excited. I hope you guys are excited. This is something that I don't think we've ever seen with Gorilla Technology, is these huge project bids being officially closed, and the funding and the investor webinar and their past projects all point to something huge happening this week. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and we just got to hope for great things now. If they do announce a project, I will come on next week and make a video on it. If not, then we'll kind of just wait it out. But let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah, see you next week.